All right, if you're struggling to get consistent inside of the gym, get consistent with your diet, get consistent with your training, maybe you're a business owner, you're a student, you work a career, you're very busy, you don't know how to fit the gym into your schedule and stay consistent with it, importantly, because as we all know, consistency is when you actually make progress. But if you struggle to build up this consistency, the MDM framework will solve this problem for you. You've never heard of this before. I've just built it up. I've just planned it all out. I've just understood this framework myself. I created it on my own. And I truly believe this is what's going to allow you to finally get 100% consistent with your training and also the other areas of your life, which I'll get onto in a bit. Let's get into it. So the first thing I want to say is that motivation versus discipline is bullshit. Okay. We have this argument online and people are saying, oh, well, I'm motivated and I'm disciplined. This is the common argument that everyone keeps bringing up. And it's basically saying, like, I mean, you've probably heard it before, but just to recap, if you haven't really heard it or you've forgotten, basically it's like, motivation is good and it's great when you feel motivated. Training when you're motivated is great. When you're motivated to work, you feel great and you get a bunch done, but you're not always motivated. Naturally, you're going to wake up some days, just feel like shit and you don't want to work. Sometimes you're not going to want to train. And that's when motivation isn't great because you're relying on just feeling good and wanting to do it, but you're not always going to want to put in the work. And that's why discipline is better, because when you're disciplined, you want to show up every single day and you use discipline and you do the hard thing and you do the hard work when you don't feel like it, Hamza, everything like that, discipline is great. Well, is it? Is it better? I think they're both good. I think they're both important. But this is not the real question. And it's also not the best option for you. Okay? And it's like, I could be motivated, I could be disciplined, but there's a better option. And I'm going to get onto that right now. And this is the solution. And this is how I personally stay consistent, show up, been consistent in the gym for 2+ years, consistent with my business, consistent with my work, consistent with my training. Momentum. Okay? This is the MDM framework. Motivation to discipline to momentum. All right. Motivation is a precursor to discipline, and discipline is the way that you build momentum. Let me explain. Okay. People always said to me, they're like, wow, you're so disciplined. You show up to the gym so much. You're so disciplined. I always see you in here. You're so disciplined. You trained every day for 2 years, basically. You're so disciplined with your diet. Why don't you eat this? You're so disciplined. And I was like, wow, this feels great. People are calling me disciplined. And I'm just a disciplined person. It wasn't discipline. Because it doesn't take discipline for me to go to the gym. It's not difficult. It's not something that I don't want to do. I want to go. But I'm not always motivated to go. It's true, because no one has motivation all the time. All right. And even though I enjoy going to the gym, some days I don't want to, but I still go. But it's not really because I'm disciplined. It's because I've built momentum. Okay. I've been going to the gym for 2 years straight consistently. So it just feels like a part of my routine. It feels like a part of my day. And if I don't do it, it feels like something is missing because I've built up momentum. Does this make sense? I was talking to my dad and he told me the story about how he used to bike to work every single day for 2 years straight. And I asked him, was it difficult? And he was like, at first. But then it became part of his routine. And it felt weird to not do it because when something is part of your routine, you just keep doing it. Why do you wake up and straight away go get a glass of water? Why do you wake up and check your phone straight away? Because we weren't placed on this planet and we just instantly started picking up our phones, right? It's a habit that you've built up. You have momentum with it. And this is a negative habit, checking your phone straight away, unless, maybe whatever you have to do it. I'm not going to judge your situation. Everyone's different. But let's say, you're always checking your phone first thing when you wake up. We're all victims of it at some point. It's just because it's a habit and a part of your day. So why not turn these good things like training hard, eating well, putting in consistent effort into your work? Why don't you just build that into your routine? And that's what momentum allows you to do. But you only get there by being motivated, building discipline, getting momentum. Okay. So let me give a pretty specific example. So for me, when I wanted to start going to the gym, I wanted to start going, obviously. So I was motivated. I didn't like how my physique looked. I didn't like my confidence. I didn't like how I felt. So I was motivated to change that. I was motivated to actually make a change and improve myself. Okay, motivation. And because I had that motivation, I wanted to train. I went 1 day, 2 days, 4 days, 5 days, 2 weeks. Something came up, all right? Let's say I don't know what it was, but let's say that was like an event, a family event, and I didn't manage to go to the gym that day. No big deal. I've been going for 2 weeks straight because I'm so motivated. The next day, my motivation is kind of low. I ate a lot of food the day before. I'm feeling kind of trash. I don't want to train. I do need to use discipline, okay? So when I say motivation versus discipline is bullshit, I think that the argument is bullshit, but obviously you need both motivation and discipline to get to this point, okay? So stay with me here. So once you have that momentum, naturally there's going to be some days where you're not motivated and you're going to need discipline to keep going and building up momentum. But then 4 weeks into it, a month, 2 months, 5 months into training, it's just a part of your routine. You no longer have to rely on motivation. You no longer have to use discipline or willpower. It's all just about momentum because it's a part of your routine already. It feels weird to not go to the gym because it's a part of your daily routine. Let's say you build it into your routine. So let's say, you go to work and then after work, you go straight to the gym, which is like a 5-minute walk from your building. Okay. The first time you do it, it's going to be fine because you were motivated to do it, right? You want to make this change. You want to improve your physique, your health, help you get better results in all areas of your life. Great. There's going to be some days where you don't really want to go. Maybe you finish a bit later and you don't really want to train. It's kind of late. You're tired. You just want to go home and sleep. You're going to have to use discipline to show up for that session. Okay. Obviously. Eventually, after using discipline a few times, you built up so much momentum. It's a part of your routine. You finish work, you go to the gym. It's afterwards. It's just a stack on what you're doing, your routine. Wake up, work, gym, eat, sleep. Okay? When you simplify your routine and just build it into your day, you're relying on momentum. You're not using motivation. You're not using discipline. You can just lean into your momentum and just keep doing it again and again. All right? Here's how I want you to think about it. Let's say you want to start going to the gym. You have a lot of motivation and you start off like this. Okay? Good. This is great. And it's a bit of an uphill battle. It's kind of tiring. You're running up the hill. Okay? And you have to use discipline, which is like even more difficult. You use a lot of energy, a lot of mental fortitude. You're quite tired. It's difficult. When you're motivated, it still takes work, obviously. You're doing something new. You've never been training this hard before. It's difficult. And then you start to rely on, a bit of discipline sometimes when you don't want to do it. It's very difficult. It takes up a lot of energy. Eventually, you're going to get to a point. Let's say this is progress, by the way. Okay. Eventually, you're going to get to a point when you can just rely on momentum and it's just going to feel like you're running downhill and you're going to go so fast and you're going to make so much of your progress, but it doesn't take all of the effort. Okay. So this is an EP graph I've just created, effort and progress. Okay. So obviously it takes a bit of effort when you're motivated at the start, to do something new. It takes a lot of effort when you need to use discipline. But when you use momentum, when you rely on momentum and lean into it, you can make really fast progress because you're just running downhill. It's just like rolling down a hill. All right. And you make a lot of progress and it doesn't take a lot of effort. Okay. The reason why people struggle to get consistent with their fitness when they're busy with like studies, their career, their business. All right. I know you're a busy person. All right. Obviously, you wouldn't be watching this video far in if you weren't busy and you didn't want a solution to this problem. And that's why you haven't been consistent so far, because it takes so much energy. All right. There's so much fluff out there saying you have to train 6 days a week and do all of this and watch your diet and track your calories. You're so overwhelmed, but you don't want to take any action. I understand, because it takes all of this effort. Okay. And you will have to put in some effort at the start, but it doesn't take long. It will take less than a month. Once you've built up, you obviously start with motivation, you switch to discipline, and then eventually you get to a point where you can rely 100% on momentum. And it's just like cruising along. You do the actions you need to do. It's part of your routine. It's part of your day. And you make a bunch of progress without putting in a lot of effort. And this is how you get 100% consistent. Let me ask you this. Why do you brush your teeth after you wake up? Because were you born as a baby and you just decided and you just knew what a toothbrush was before you were placed on this earth, and you just knew that you just have to brush your teeth after waking up? Okay, maybe you brush your teeth after breakfast, whatever. All right. Let's just use it as an example. Okay, you brush your teeth after waking up. Why is that a part of your routine? Why? Well, I mean, obviously, as a child, probably you saw your parents doing it and you knew it's like you need to take care of your teeth and you want to brush your teeth first thing waking up because you've been tired for a long time. All right. It's all the details. But why do you actually brush your teeth after you wake up? Well, it's because you've always done it. All right. Let's say you're 20 years old. You've been doing this on your own for probably 16 years? Every single day. Same action for 2 minutes. It's a part of your routine. Okay. But let's say you take a caveman. and give him a toothbrush, he's not going to be as consistent as you. He'll be kind of interested the first time. He'll try brushing his teeth like, wow, this is so interesting. But it's not going to be a part of his routine because he hasn't been doing it for 16 years straight. All right? You brush your teeth after waking up because that's what you've always done. You go and get a glass of water and drink it because that's what you've always done after waking up. You open your phone and start scrolling because that's what you've been doing for the last 5 years. It's a part of your routine. And some of these are good habits. I mean, some of these are just baseline hygiene, obviously. Some of them are bad habits. Why not build the good habits into your routine too? Make the gym, make training, make going on runs, make following your diet a non-negotiable and a part of your routine. Easier said than done, I understand. But this is exactly how you do it using the MDM framework, all right? You start by being motivated to make a change, which you already are. You're watching this video like 12 minutes in, okay? You're already motivated. There's going to be some times where you have to use discipline to stay consistent. But always know that your end goal is to build enough momentum that it's as simple as brushing your teeth. If you didn't brush your teeth for 24 hours, you'd feel like trash. It'd feel kind of weird, right? Because that's what you've always done. So if you build training, following a good diet into your routine and make it something that you always do, if you ever miss it, which will happen, obviously, it happens to me too, you'll miss days. But when you do, it will feel so odd and so out of the ordinary that you're gonna want to get straight back on the horse and stay consistent. Okay, this is how you get 100% consistent. You rely and lean into momentum. All right, so let me give some specific examples of this, all right? Waking up early, for example. Let's say, you've always been someone that stays up late and wakes up at like 12 p.m. Maybe like as a student, you did it, like on summer holidays, you just like wake up at like 2 p.m. And you have the motivation. All of a sudden, you're like, nope, I've seen some videos, you get motivated, like, all right, you know that you can work better in the mornings. I want to start waking up at 5 a.m. You're motivated, all right? You're going to set that alarm the next day for 5 a.m. And you'll probably wake up at 5 a.m. and you'll get a lot of shit done, okay? Great. Good job. Second day, you'll likely be able to do it too, all right? But then you're going to feel really tired. Your body's not in its, like, the clock that you've kind of programmed it to. Obviously, you've been programming yourself to wake up at like 1 p.m. All of a sudden, you wake up at 5. First day, it can deal with it eventually. You're going to relapse and you're probably going to do something wrong, miss your alarm, stay up late. You need discipline on those days to get out of bed, right? Make a coffee, you got to get over it because your body clock hasn't reset it to 5 a.m. But after a month of waking up at 5 a.m., after 6 months, after 1 year, after 5 years of waking up at 5 a.m., you don't need an alarm, right? You'll just wake up at 5 a.m. because that's what you always do. Because that's your body clock. Obviously, we have a body clock and, if you go to bed at like 9 p.m., for example, you're guaranteed to wake up at 5 as long as you do it consistently enough. But you've built up that momentum now. And it started, you needed to have the motivation to make a change, obviously. You needed some discipline to get through those hard days where you're kind of adjusting, all right? Think of discipline as the tool that you use to go from motivation to momentum, okay? Motivation is great for starting out. You're going to come across a problem. You need discipline to get over that stage, where it's like kind of the valley of despair where you might fail and relapse. Once you get past this difficult period, you can rely on momentum and you'll start waking up at 5 a.m. because you always have. All right, walking your dog. You were motivated. You probably wanted to get a dog. Dogs are kind of cute. You want a dog? Great. You have a dog, you watch some videos, you research having a dog. This is great. Okay, I have to walk him twice a day. First day you walk him, second day you walk him. One weekend you wake up one morning like, shit, I don't really want to walk. But then you remember, I have a dog to take care of. I have a responsibility. I have to walk him. You have to use some discipline that day. But after a month, after 6 months, after 2 years of having a dog, it's a part of your routine. You wake up and walk him. You get home from work, you walk him. All right? You're not using discipline. You might not be particularly motivated. Maybe you enjoy walking. I do. I do 10,000 steps a day. I enjoy walking. But you're not particularly motivated. It's just a part of your routine. All right? You've built up so much momentum that you just do it because you always have. Putting in the business work, all right? If you look at a successful entrepreneur, for example, he started with motivation. I mean, maybe he's just in a really bad situation, wanting to get out of it. He's motivated still. For me, I just want to make some money at a young age, so I'm motivated to do the work. You look at a serial entrepreneur, Alex Hormozy, for example. He started off probably motivated to change his life and stop sleeping on the floor in his gym or whatever his story is, right? Starts with motivation. There's going to be days when you don't want to do the work. You forget why you're doing it. You need discipline on those days. But eventually you just do the work because that's what you've always done. All right. Like yesterday, I was walking through town. I'm staying in the UK right now. And there's these food trucks, and I've seen this guy here. I saw him like 10 years ago. He's still there, showing up every single day. I wouldn't assume he's particularly motivated to show up and serve food from his truck. His food's pretty good, by the way. I don't think that he's particularly disciplined to show up because it's just what he does. This is his profession. This is his job. And he shows up and he does it every single day because he's built up the momentum. All right. Same thing with your nutrition. All right. Obviously, training is important. Nutrition is arguably even more important. Being healthy, watching your diet, everything like that. Okay. And I'm messing with my mic. And your nutrition, for example, let's say you've always been eating horrible food. Your parents didn't really watch their diets. You've been eating like biscuits, crisps, unhealthy food, pizza 4 times a week, burgers, whatever. Okay. You haven't been eating healthy as a child. If you don't change anything, if you don't pivot, all right, you're just going to continue eating the shit food because that's what you've always done. But then you see online, oh, maybe I should eat more eggs, some more red meat, actually focus on my diet, eat avocados, healthy fats, eat a low carb diet, for example. There's many different ways we can go with this. But let's just say, you want to get on a keto diet, okay? Might not be best for everyone. Definitely not if you're trying to get really big in the gym, but let's just use it for example's sake, okay? You want to get on a keto diet. You've always been eating like trash. But you have like motivation to change this, okay? So the next day, you're going to eat pretty well. You're going to be able to follow the keto diet. 2 days in, you probably still will. 4 days in, probably still will. On the 5th day, you're going to have some serious cravings because let's say you've had 20 years of eating trash. You're going to miss it because that's what you've always done, all right? It's the same principle. That's what you've always been doing. So now, when you bring it back, you're going to need to use some discipline to stick to the keto diet because on day 5, you're going to have really strong cravings. It's really difficult. You're just going to be thinking about that food that you used to eat and now you can't. You can't have a burger anymore because you're on low to no carbs, right? It's going to be difficult. And that's like the value of the spare time, the discipline point where you have to use it, where you might fail and relapse and just continue eating this trash food for the rest of your life. But if you can use discipline to get through that 1-2 weeks, then it's just momentum. You realize that how good you feel eating low carb, how like brain fogged you were, all of this time. And now it's all gone. Now you no longer have the brain fog. Now you can work better, you perform better, you feel better, you look better. And you're obviously motivated now because you've seen your results. But more importantly, you have momentum and you built up the momentum to just keep doing the actions, to keep following the diet, to keep showing up. Okay? Momentum will change your life. I don't see anyone talking about this. This is the MDM framework. I've just thought it up myself. All right? No one speaks about this. This is probably the first time you've heard someone explain it like this. I hope this concept makes sense because it's what I've realized has actually been changing my life, even if I didn't actually have a name for it, if I didn't, realize what it was. I was telling myself I was disciplined. Actually, I was just relying on momentum, and that's how I've been getting good results in my own life. And you should do this to get them in yours too. Okay? I know this can sound a bit vague, and I've tried to give some examples to explain exactly how to do it, but if you want my help in implementing this system, then you can book a free call with me at the top link in the description. I'd love to help you implement it. This is the MDM framework. All right, you can book a call, top link in the description. If you look at the second link in the description, that's my completely free to join, 100% free school community, where I basically have, a full community of other guys, all trying to improve their physiques, their life through self-improvement, fitness, getting into the gym, which gets them better results in their gym, business, careers, studies. All right. And you can join that community for completely free. There's like 130 something guys in there. We're all working together, to improve our physiques, get better in life, and obviously just surpass everyone else in all of those areas through improving your physical fitness. So if that sounds interesting to you, you can check those out at the top link in the description. But if this framework makes sense to you and you want to use it to get more results in your life, then book a call with me and we'll talk soon. And yeah, I mean, I hope this was interesting. I hope it made sense. And if you got any questions, drop them in the comments below. I'd be happy to answer. And yeah, if you found it valuable, subscribe to my channel. Click the like button, for the algorithm or whatever. I do want to push this message out. So if you found it valuable, please do that. And yeah, thank you for watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.